CTV's Art Beaumonk begins our coverage tonight. He's live on Activa Avenue. Art, there is a lot of speculation about a cause, but is there any confirmation just yet?
Not yet, Megan. Investigators are certainly taking a look at gas or propane, but they can't start going through the rubble until it's ruled safe. It was like an inferno. The ferocity of the fire captured in this YouTube video. Some say it sounded like a massive thunderstrike. And when they went outside, their first concern was for the mother and father and their two children, who were in the heart of the explosion.
She was on the roof. She was screaming for her child, like not in English, of course, but we could tell that there was more people inside. The husband couldn't walk, so people had to drag him outside. My father stepped out, my neighbor stepped out, they dragged him outside.
Neighbors say they were stunned when they saw what the explosion had done.
I saw there was a huge ball of fire, and the road just got blocked off from all the other people who came down, brought their cars, and everyone was out looking at this fire that you could see from. I live up on the hill, and it's almost about a kilometer away. I could see the fireball.
See it and hear it. This teen lives almost 2 kilometers away.
There was just a loud noise at around midnight, and my entire house shook. I thought it was an earthquake at first.
Officially, the call registered at 11:45, and crews were fearing the worst when they got there.
I think when you arrive on a scene like this, that's probably one of the little things you give a quick thank you for, is that everybody was alive on arrival and seems to be in relatively good condition.
He says the father had the most serious injuries, but nothing life-threatening. Other family members were treated and released, we're told. Now, because of the state of things, we're told it might not be until tomorrow till they can actually start probing around to try to find the cause. Nothing suspicious, say police. Gas and propane, considerations, say investigators. But exactly how it happened, still undetermined. Now, we're told that one person, a neighbor, is still without gas. The others had their restored over the noon hour. And on one other note, the fire marshal has been called in to help with the investigation.
We begin with an exclusive story tonight. The Kitchener family who survived a devastating house explosion is sharing details about the terrifying ordeal for the first time. Traumatized and trying to recover, the Wynn family says they were all tucked away in bed when an explosion ripped apart their Activa Avenue home. CTV's Art Beaumonk joins us live from the scene. Art, you sat down with the family today. How are they holding up?
Megan, as best as they can right now. They're just glad that they're safe and they're alive, and they're hoping to be together again soon. They talked to us in their motel room provided by the Red Cross. 16-year-old Tony Wynn, his sister 11-year-old Sarah, and their mother Lynn. Her husband, Min, still in hospital. They were all inside their Kitchener home Sunday night when an explosion blew it apart and turned it into a fireball. Sarah says she was upstairs in her bed, sleeping. She awoke to a nightmare.
I was in the basement covered in wood, and I kept on hitting the wood, but I wouldn't budge. And then the fire came closer, and there was a light, and then I finally saw what was happening with the fire.
At first, she thought she was dreaming. Then reality set in, and she fought hard to survive.
I had to climb from the basement up. I climbed by handling some wood, and I had to yell to let them notice me.
Help to safety. So was her mother, seen in this picture. The family still doesn't know how it happened. They say they didn't smell anything like gas. They hadn't been using the propane barbecue.
And I just remember me collapsing down, but I was still in my bed, so then that's why I'm not as injured as anybody else here. And it collapsed, and I remember stopping myself thinking it was all a dream, but then I could hear people yelling, "Run, there's a fire," or something, and I stood up and I saw my mom on the roof. I could hear my dad, but I didn't know where he was.
He says his father fractured his pelvis, and though he tried to help, there was nothing he could do. He was carried to safety on a stretcher. Their thoughts now with him.
Knowing what my dad's situation is, getting him, his surgery, see how well he is after that. Is he able to be oriented after his surgery? Is he able to make decisions again?
A close-knit family who've lost everything they owned, even their car, so they can't get to Hamilton to see their father and husband. After an explosion that took so much, but it couldn't take their courage or their spirit. Now, as to the investigation, there's still a lot of work to do here yet. They haven't found the cause. Now, the Red Cross is providing temporary lodging, food, and essentials, but if there's anyone out there who would like to help the Wynn family, you can call the Red Cross and they'll provide you with some advice on how to do that. Megan?
All right, thanks, Art. Well, as Art mentioned, this is a photo of the mother being carried across the road by 2 police officers following the explosion. She's in pajamas and barefoot, but emergency workers arrived at the scene. It was actually a neighbor who risked his own life to save hers. CTV's David Imrie is introducing us to that man tonight. David, Aaron Mannery was the first one to arrive at that scene, and he says he knew exactly what had to be done.
He did, Megan. And Aaron Mannery lives just a few doors away. He's a reservist with the Canadian Forces, a combat engineer. And when he heard that blast, his training from the Canadian Forces triggered his response to the emergency.
I put my head outside and there was a lot of other people doing the same thing out their doors. And so that's when I realized something was going on. And I actually did hear the word fire.
In a matter of seconds, Aaron Mannery sprung into action. He was dressed, he came running down the street, and he found the mother trapped in the rubble, frantically searching for her daughter.
She was very distraught, obviously. Her entire life had just blown up. She was buried up to her waist in the rubble, trying to dig, look for her daughter. At first, I just had to get her off the scene and get her to a point of safety.
Moving into a rescue mode for this Afghan vet, using his training to prevent further harm.
So long as there was a mother digging in the rubble, I felt it was necessary to make sure she wasn't still on that in case of subsequent explosions.
Not far away, a part of the house was burning.
The fire wasn't a hazard.
Aaron downplays that danger, but he says he had to get the mother to safety and let paramedics and firefighters deal with the trapped daughter.
I was able to really focus on what needed to happen. And I switched right into counseling the mom and trying to reassure her, because at that point, that's what I could offer.
Aaron knew the father and son were away from danger, and in what seemed like an eternity but was just a few minutes, Aaron was able to tell the mother he was comforting her daughter was pulled from the rubble, conscious and alert.
She was able to realize her loss is only material. It was not family.
We may never know what caused a Kitchener home to explode and burst into flames. That's what the fire chief is now saying about the blast on Activa Avenue. CTV's Art Belmonk has that story tonight. Art, it sounds like something people have to be prepared for.
They do, Megan. Now, pending results could pinpoint the cause. If not, it could go down as undetermined. It's been over a month now since the explosion and fire. Officials have determined there were no gas or methane pockets, that the lines checked out okay, that it wasn't criminal, and it wasn't appliances in the home. A mystery still to be solved, or maybe not. Investigators are still waiting for test results from the Center of Forensic Science, but officials tell us the cause of what happened here may never be determined.
At the end of the day, if we can't rule out certain events or certain possible events, then the cause would go down as undetermined. We're not there as of yet.
Everything seems to hinge on the forensics. This man said it would be disappointing not to know the cause, but either way, he says for him and his family, it's time to move on.
And if they say everything else is safe and this was just an isolated incident, then sure, then put it behind us and hopefully the family does rebuild and go on.
A week ago, fire and utility officials tried to ease concerns at a public meeting, encouraging people to take regular safety initiatives in their homes. This ward councillor is all for that, but wonders if more can be done.
That may be something like natural gas detectors, just starting a program with that, whether we give them out free or what we do with that. That's one option.
Another thought discussed at council may be helping out homeowners with inspections, staff now preparing a report, but everyone waiting for the forensic results, one way or the other. And no one knows when those results will be delivered. That's now in the hands of forensic scientists in Toronto.
Good evening. A Kitchener man whose house exploded earlier this year says his family has no choice but to move back into a new home on the same property. Min Nguyen, his wife and 2 children say it's a terrifying thought because they still have no idea what caused the blast. CTV's Nicole Lampa spoke with Nguyen earlier today. Nicole.
Megan Nguyen says his family expects to be in the home by December, but they are all very nervous about moving in. Walking with a cane, Min Nguyen is now assessing his new home being built on Activa Avenue. Back in January, Nguyen's house was leveled after a powerful explosion. It was the middle of the night, and Nguyen woke up somewhere in his backyard.
I tried to stand up, but I fell down 3 times because my bell was broken.
After spending 3 months in the hospital, Nguyen says he thought things were moving along until he got something disturbing in the mail. The Technical Standards Safety Authority was brought in to help investigate what happened and sent Nguyen the bill.
They sent me about the bill a lot, 4 or 5 bills, and they called me always, asked me pay the bill about 13,700 something.
After a couple of months, Nguyen gave the bill to his insurance company. In an email, the TSSA says they issued a bill for the cost of the investigation to the homeowner with the expectation the bill would be redirected to the homeowner's insurance company, as TSSA does not have information about the insurer. TSSA apologizes if there was a misunderstanding that the homeowner was expected to cover the cost of the investigation. Meanwhile, fire officials still don't know what caused the explosion.
The fire marshal's office has not completed their investigation and have not released the final report.
Not knowing is why Nguyen is nervous about moving back in.
We have no choice. We don't know what reason. That's why my whole family is still scared.
Kitchener Fire and city officials say the Activa property is safe and issued a permit to rebuild the home back in August. As for the cause, there's no timeline when the Ontario Fire Marshal's office will issue one.
There's concern in South Kitchener tonight where a home exploded earlier this year. Details regarding gas inspections following the Activa Avenue house explosion will be presented to Kitchener Council next Monday. But in that report, more than half of the homes checked had gas leaks. CTV's Nicole Lampa joins us from Activa Avenue tonight. Nicole, first of all, were these gas leaks considered dangerous?
Well, Megan, most of them were minor. Only 2 homes had to have their gas shut down in order to fix the problems. But regardless, this information doesn't sit well with people living in a neighborhood where a house exploded. A gas explosion leveled this Activa Avenue home nearly 10 months ago.
That was a tragic event, and it is very unfortunate.
The head of Kitchener Utilities says concerns for safety prompted inspections for those who live by the blast. 750 letters were issued to nearby homes. Only 300 homeowners said yes to a free gas inspection. Of the 300, more than half had gas leaks.
93% of the leaks were of no harm to anybody. 2 of them were requiring to shut off the gas, and the gas was shut off to the fireplace and to a furnace.
Officials say homeowners need to be more proactive with gas inspections, but add the Nguyen family of 4, who miraculously survived the blast, had one done prior to the incident. Still struggling with trauma from the explosion and have asked for privacy, while neighbors say they're concerned about the latest report.
Hearing that, it makes me a little bit concerned.
Others are still shaken by what prompted the inspections.
The idea of being asleep and that my house could explode is not a nice idea.
And while a new gas line is being installed at the property where the explosion happened, Kitchener's fire chief says the Ontario Fire Marshal's office still does not have a cause.
They're in the process of concluding their investigation, but at this time we don't have any official statement from them determining what the cause is.
Now, this report that is going to council is for information purposes only. There are no recommendations. And the price tag for the inspections and to fix the gas leaks, well, it cost $22,000.